The Bolton Conservation Commission will hold a public meeting under the provisions of MGL Chapter 131, Section 40, Wetlands Protection Act and Riverfront Act under the Bolton Wetland Bylaw, Chapter 233. We have a roll call. I'm Jeff Bryan.
Kip McNamara.
William Payne.
Rose Stevenson. Rebecca Lundvall. And Brian Bruce will be joining us shortly.
So, here we are. What's up first?
If you want to do minutes first.
Which one?
I said if you want to do the minutes first.
Let's do the minutes. We have a new minute. We have new minutes that from August 6th, and we have a new format that Rebecca is now showing it. It's very nice. If anybody have any interest in the minute, not interest, any comments or additions to the minutes? Everybody's read it?
Good.
Good. So we'll accept the minutes here. So I make a motion to accept the minutes.
Second.
All approved?
Aye.
Great. And for the record, I like the new organization.
Thank you. Parks and Rec.
Just for the record.
Don't worry
Thank
about
you,
that.
Parks and Rec.
Yeah, just make it easy to figure out what happened.
Yeah, I thought it was
Yeah.
very organized, so I asked them for a way of like to follow that.
Okay, so where are we going as our agenda? We're gonna wait till Brian gets back?
Yes.
We'll wait till he gets back so we can talk about, well, we've approved the minutes, maybe we can talk about the Keys Farm updates. Is that something you want to chat about?
So the updates, we basically just went back and requested the cart path be seeded and allowed to naturalize in the snow fencing. They have yet to carry out that work, but they have completed cleanup of the area adjacent to Basin 2, which was a washout area that was actually a repeat washout area. And they're working, they created a temporary basin adjacent to that in order to remediate any further washout while they're working on the lot just north of that.
I have to admit, I went up there, up the road to the parking area.
Yep.
It's pretty well, you know, big enough for a couple of cars in there, and
Yep.
it seemed to be pretty good. So I guess also we should maybe take a quick review of that Ellie, I don't know her, I can't remember her last name, from the nature camp, sent in an idea of a little discussion about what she did, how she, you know, and what they do on over at Bowers Springs. You know, and they're looking to do some other things there, and I think she might be in and talking to us in a while, but she sent a note to Rebecca. We all want to take a look at it and get back to us with the activities that are going on. We're all set with that. So I notice now that Brian has returned, duly sworn in, so he can take over the minutes and the rest of the meeting. There we go. So we've reviewed the mail.
Okay.
No, we haven't reviewed the mail. We reviewed the minutes, we reviewed the Keys Farms updates, and handed over to you.
Did you?
Welcome back.
Thank you. Did you approve the minutes?
Yes.
All right. All right. So,
You can do it first.
second, you right?
Here's your cheat sheet.
Oh, thank you. Is the first one the first one? Yeah, 4/6/30. Okay. The Bolton Conservation Commission will now hold a public hearing under the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, and under the Bolton Wetland Bylaw, Chapter 233, to consider the request for determination of applicability filed by Jason Reese to the proposed improvements to the athletic field located at 570 Main Street, map 4, C, parcel 38. Do we have anyone here to speak for this?
Do not see them.
Okay.
I will start quickly though with a brief summary.
Yep.
And noting that Laura Roberts from Parks and Rec did email me to confirm that Parks and Rec on June 6th approved of these improvements to the field conditions at what they consider Tower Field.
So are they just enlarging that area?
Yes, I will expand upon this briefly. Their minutes state that the individual who filed the RDA from Stowe represents the Bolton Youth Across Incorporated group. The field on Route 117 is used by K through 4th graders. Games are played every other week on Sunday. Major improvements to the playing field and parking are proposed on the same footprint. A new entrance off of 117 is planned. The current access will become the exit. A better, stronger fence is proposed to protect people from any traffic accident. Phase 1 includes a new field surface, new fence by 117, new parking plan along 117, and possible sidewalk going east. And this is included in your packets to follow along. Phase 2 includes fencing, a pushback of about 20 to 30 feet, a barrier between Cell Tower Road and the playing field, and open poles that might allow hanging sponsor ads. And then it talks about the funding, and that's Parks and Rec's minutes. The work description is to grade and loam the existing playing surface, including scraping high areas and regrading to pull rainwater towards the southern end to eliminate pooling, adding French drains along the eastern, western, and southern ends to aid in proper draining, replace and extend existing fence along roadway to add additional parking options, and extend the existing fence along the eastern side to protect field and players from vehicles.
Trying to look at the buffer zone offsets, is that, so
sure.
that's 100,
100 foot, yes. So the majority of the proposed work is outside the 100 foot.
yep. It's just this side and the spectator area in theory.
Yep, and then, so something to also note is the spectator area, after having a survey done by Ducharme and Dillis and having this engineering work done, they realized that the area that's currently maintained is not town property, but rather the adjacent Flatley Bolton Office Park property. And therefore, the individual who filed the application will be reaching out to them, if they have not already, prior to start of work to confirm that the work will be allowed.
And that's all within buffer zone, right?
The spectator area, yep, but it's currently
Grass.
maintained as field,
And it's grass.
part of the athletic field,
Yeah.
basically.
Who maintains it?
We do.
You do?
Public Works. And what we do is we simply mow it.
Mow it, yeah.
Mow it, yeah.
You mow the baseball fields too?
Yes.
Well, okay. Who maintains the road that's there? Is that cell tower guys? Must.
Yeah, so there's an easement to the cell tower,
Yeah.
and then, I mean, when there's beaver issues, DPW,
Further in.
yeah, further in,
Further.
DPW maintains it, but, so, highway easement,
So the parking spaces are gonna actually be on the road? The dirt that goes in there?
yes, they're
So
looking
that's
to
fine.
enlarge
Yeah.
the area to the tree lines.
Yeah.
They're not proposing tree removal.
Right.
Looks like they removed some trees, but not much.
Yeah. Well, a lot of this that you see in the image, it's just the canopy.
Yeah, but if you could field going right to the, under the canopy, you'd probably remove those trees right there.
Just trying to see what questions I have. It's kind of what I want to go and take a look.
Okay.
Just to see, I don't know how this feels, see it marked out, because I am curious about that back corner as it goes up to the tree line. Maybe it doesn't need to be that far back, depending. So if the part of the parking lot cuts into the 100 foot, and that's something that may be able to be pulled in. You know, it might be a turnaround thing, they need the width, but it might also not be necessary depending.
I think it's a good idea, I'm not sure how the parking, you know, if everybody pulls in, it goes this, and then they,
Yeah, I
What do
know.
I know?
I'm picturing what most of this looks like now, but I want to see how far back it
this
goes.
is the bank right here, right?
Yes, right?
Yeah, so that's the
That's the bank right there, right? Probably.
Yeah, it's an older image.
Yeah, okay, thank you. I was
I
like,
know, 'cause I was trying to figure that one out, I was like,
It
Yeah.
doesn't
Far
look,
away.
yeah, okay, all right.
They used an older image just because of the visibility.
Also, I'd be curious to see where that tree line is now too.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anybody here to comment, questions on this one tonight? Rebecca, do you have comments, questions, thoughts on this one tonight?
No, I think the points that the commission has already brought up are very relevant, and if those are addressed properly, I think it's over an existing athletic field, and as long as it's not impacting the resource areas,
Yeah.
I think it's suitable, especially because it is an athletic field, and we do see flooding problems, and it's relatively wet towards that rear corner. So if they can do work that will actually remediate it, I think it's beneficial.
It might actually help. So with that said, do we think we can ask them to try to set up a site visit
Yeah.
to go out?
Yeah.
And basically just to see marked the corners, I mean,
Yeah, stake out.
you know, where we're getting to. If they're not here, does that mean I have to close it? Not continue it?
Yep.
All right. But we do not take action.
Yep.
All right, in that case, I'd like to make a motion that we close the public hearing for determination of applicability for lacrosse concept improvements to the field and parking area of map 4.C-38.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
So closed.
Does that mean we're not gonna do a site visit?
No, we will.
We
but
can't
you
continue
can't-
unless they ask.
Oh,
Right. So they can't provide any,
right, so somebody needs to
Additional
be here.
information.
Yeah.
But we can probably figure it out.
Basically, site visits needed.
Yeah,
for this
what,
work.
anything that we need to change.
Okay.
All right. The Bolton Conservation Commission will now continue a public hearing under the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40A, and under the Bolton Wetland Bylaw, Chapter 233, to consider the notice of intent submitted by Ducharme and Dillis on behalf of the Department of Public Works regarding the proposed replacement of a road culvert along with proposed catch basins, manholes, and associated grading off of Spectacle Hill Road and South Bolton Road between the junctions of Mill Pond Road and Wheeler Road. At this time, the Bolton Conservation Commission will also continue the public hearing on the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, and under the Bolton Wetland Bylaw, Chapter 233, to consider the notice of intent submitted by Ducharme and Dillis on behalf of the Department of Public Works regarding the proposed catch basin and discharge pipe and improved drainage on South Bolton Road.
So we're gonna do both areas concurrently.
Why don't we do them concurrently? Because we can.
if that's fine.
Yeah, it was
Fine.
I was gonna say, that's okay with you.
We get back to the sidewalk yesterday, Brian and I were there, and the plan's been in for a couple of weeks now. So of the two projects, they're really separate because they're far enough apart, though they're both on South Bolton Road. We felt filing separate NOIs was appropriate. The one we're gonna talk about first, though, was the one on Spectacle Hill at South Bolton and Mill Road. That filing is at two locations, this one as well as around the corner of South Bolton, just down halfway between Spectacle Hill and Wheeler. The lion's share of the work is in Spectacle Road itself, between Mill Road and South Bolton. Those folks who live in the area, travel in the area, maybe pay attention to what's going on around town, probably recognize this has been extremely susceptible to flooding most times in flashy types of weather, frozen ground conditions, as well as spring melt off and runoff. very important to point out that there is an existing drainage problem here, there always has been. Though the frequency of flooding and the degree to which it floods have both been exacerbated by some actions that have taken place up within Central Middle States development itself. However, they're responsible for maintaining, they got approved, they analyzed it, built, maintained, and at some point will turn over to the town their drainage system. And during the construction, they have been less than diligent in maintaining it. So the frequency of the flooding and the degree to which it floods is exacerbated by that condition up there. We took the existing condition and recognized that we're only going to cure what is the town's responsibility and not take any burden off the developer to fix what he has to fix. We shouldn't have to bear that financial burden or permitting burden. So what we have now is an existing waterway that comes down, meanders through a relatively flat area, comes down off a steep slope into what is a kettle hole pond. If you folks know that area, it's an old Bonazoli gravel pit, the remnants of one. And that's where the water all wants to go. There is no outlet out of that pond, typical kettle hole gravel pond. It's really not a kettle hole geologically.
Man-made
But
kettle
it
hole.
looks like one. It's just a hole in the ground. It's deep though. That's where the water all goes, and it rises and falls depending on the volume that it sees, and it just seeps into the ground when it's dry.
Does it ever dry up?
No, it does not dry up. I think
It does at times,
it does,
What?
right?
yes,
It does completely dry up?
at times, yeah.
Wow, the deep one.
Yep, it can.
Okay, so it's even better example of the ground that's underlying it. The situation is there's a former stone culvert there that's been replaced with a 10-inch PVC pipe. And to maintain that flow there, which is where it wants to go principally, we're going to be putting in a battery, 3 12-inch pipes, dead flat, and to act as an equalizer. So the water that comes down here has the opportunity to get through there unimpeded. And to do that, we're going to be raising the grade of the road a little bit in order to give a cover over those pipes. We also have an opportunity, because of there's a peculiarity with the layout of the roadway. There's a jog where the roadway layout widens as compared to up here. And in that area, we also have the ability to excavate out some of the soils that are in there and create basically a backwater storage area that those medium types of storms, when this area doesn't want to see high volume, it can still back up there and gradually,
Not end up in the road.
and not end up in the road. But on those larger storms, when it does back up and you get into here, we're then going to be constructing a swale. Again, we're raising the road. So when you're out there looking, and Brian can vouch for this, it looks relatively flat.
Yeah.
But since we're raising the road up, we actually have the ability to create a country drainage swale along that edge, put a pipe beneath that driveway, keep that swale coming down, and where there is now currently a drop inlet, which simply pipes across, turns without a structure here, and discharges into that very same pond across private property. What we're going to do is introduce another catch basin structure with a deep sump so we can get sands and salts out of it, and we can clean them every year. We're going to be taking the drop inlet and also making that a deep sump catch basin, and introducing a manhole as a way to take energy out of the system before it discharges. When we take energy out, is this all has a slope to it, this has a slope to it, this has a slope, and then from here to here, it's flat. 12-inch pipe, it's 8 already, we'll be putting 12-inch pipe in, dead flat, so the velocities are no greater than they are now. It also is going to have beehive covers, domed graded covers, to also give us more protection for leaf litter that gets in there in the fall, and to be able to still allow water to pass even when leaves build up on it. I got a flat grade, you would lose it immediately. This gives you the ability to have a little higher elevation on that. This work here is replacing a pipe that already exists. It was put in with verbal permission a long time ago. I don't have an exact date, but it's some 20-odd years. There is no easement in it for that pipe. The pipe is there. We been working with the landowner of this property. She has not granted us an easement yet, we're still pursuing that easement, but as you folks know, that under standard orders of conditions, you're not granting anybody any greater rights other than what the Wetland Protection Act allows. Meaning, so you approve this project, if I don't secure an easement from the owner, I just simply can't build this. So we're looking to, get the approval first, and run concurrently as we negotiate the easement. All hydraulic calculations are done. The volumes going into these locations are exactly the same as what they were prior to the Century Mill coming in. So we're using that pre-existing condition. And the velocities in both locations are identical as well. Keeping those pipe slopes in both instances darn near flat. This has a little break at the grade coming across. This battery pipe's right here. Literally drops 6 inches in 40 feet. And this from the outfall here is dead flat. At invert 354, it should be 357 to 357. So that's dead flat coming right across. The grade of the discharge matches the existing grade of where it is now. What isn't here now is a head wall or riprap, and those are just standard items you include for erosion control and structure control. So those would be added. And that's it on that project. The element that we talk about is the road doesn't get raised, though the grade of the road is going to simply get the water into country drainage on the side. We're not introducing any other resource areas. The resource, there's the 100-foot buffer zone to this pond. But there are also border vegetative wetlands, smaller areas isolated up in this area here. And of course it is, because that's where the old brook was. We're proposing to do nothing within that resource area. It's all buffer zone work.
So, the only question I have is how big a rainstorm? I mean, is this a normal rainstorm thing? And
When this floods?
yeah,
So in a frozen ground condition, with marginal 10-year storm,
yeah,
which you have 10% chance of getting every single year as opposed to once every 10 years.
yeah.
It happens, it floods in the lowest part of the bowl, it floods to 8 to 10 inches in the deepest point. It extends all the way up to about here, right through to the beginning of the intersection, and then the bowl in the deepest parts where it's the deepest.
So when you plow, where's the snow go? Off to the side, I know.
Goes off to the side.
Yeah,
And
but I mean,
and quite honestly, by my own observations, and typical across town, what we're really seeing is what was probably once country drainage maintained back in the day, just in years and years and years and years and years, decades of sand use in winter, plowed the snowbank and melted and never dug out.
yeah,
What you're looking at is what used to be swales and now mountains of sand. So if you pay attention to driving around the roadside, you're gonna see a lot of that. And you also will probably see a lot of work that we've been doing roadside,
yeah.
trying to clean that stuff out, since I've been here.
And so when they finally do this upstream here, that's not going to affect what you're doing.
It's going to decrease the frequency from which it happens now. That's a separate argument unto itself. We've been chasing that for the full 2 years that I've been here. They built a large detention basin. They built those houses and roads that are there. And they get into that. That's an infiltrating basin, and then during construction, they have all the silts and mucks and the things that were done. They used it more for siltation control, but any infiltrating capabilities in the bottom of it are plastered right off, and it doesn't infiltrate anything. Every inch of rain when that basin is full goes right out the back. It has zero detention capability whatsoever.
And they could fix it. That's a different story. I'm sorry. I just
Yeah,
I
they
just
are
was going-
They are obligated to fix it.
I was
yes.
just sort of interested in how big a rainstorm, what you're gonna do is gonna fix. I mean, so what you're saying is this, at a, not a 100-year storm, but a 25-year
25-year
storm, this will not flood the way it's been flooding.
Even with,
Frozen winter basically is
so even without them doing it, what we're going to see is the same volume of water getting here faster,
yeah,
But what we're going to be doing is keeping it out of the roadway.
Out of the roadway.
We're gonna keep it within the swales and into the drainage
Yep.
system.
Makes sense.
Now, if you don't get the right of way on the tail end, is there an alternative, or it just stays there until it slowly goes back down the other end?
I mean, there's an alternative for everything, it's just a matter of money, time, and how far do you
Well, I
have
just
to
said if you
go.
don't get that easement on the far end, that water gets backed up because you're raising the road.
That's where the water always
And
went
so-
before this house was even built. Where that landowner is, they built that house, they built the driveway, they took what was a
So
natural,
it'll just stay.
they took what was a natural
Won't be
ravine.
going at a faster speed.
Correct. So I believe that not only does it want to get there, that's where Gate always got, and that's the position we're gonna be taking as we negotiate.
So
If they say no, then we're gonna have to, and they have the right to say no, we'll say, and I don't know if that's the case yet. But if that is the case, then we'd have to come down further down South Bolton Road, at much greater expense, go back to town meeting, and, for more funding, and then put it into a different location. The irony there is, I'm transferring water from one watershed to another.
So I think the question too is back to the easement, if it's for some reason not granted, would you still be doing the work on the other end? Or no, you wouldn't be approaching this project at all,
I think-
you have to go back?
I think we could still do this regardless, it would only have marginal benefit.
Okay,
We could probably still fill the roadway, we could probably still put the swale. The problem is we wouldn't have any graded discharge, we would tie it into that 8-inch pipe that's already there, and that
So
would
it's
be
just
the
gonna
end.
take longer for it to stay.
So what would happen?
Longer than this design, but better than what's there now.
So what would happen to the water if you don't get the easement? What just flows out there, considered a pipe, and out it goes, right?
Yeah, and that is another piece of irony, is that when this does in fact flood, what it does is it flows over, with, just overtops the roadway and flows down that same exact area. So, that's a discussion that we, town administrator and myself will have with the homeowners, and that we'll have, selectmen's participation in, if we reach impasse, then we take the next step. This is just one step along the road. Again, if you grant permission for us to do the work, including this, and I don't get the easement, I just simply can't do that.
Yeah, and it's not a field amendment, if we go a different way, it's gonna be a
I'll come back with a new filing.
Yeah, yeah,
New filing,
yeah.
because I think it goes beyond the scope of an amendment.
Yeah.
I had two questions when I had first received this, and I think most of my questions were answered when you had come in and reviewed it. The two outstanding questions were, there's a restored area with native wetland soil and vegetation. I would like to see, and I think it would be beneficial for the commission to see a detail related to that on the plans. And the area, whether it's right there adjacent to the culvert, or
That's this little area right here, correct?
yeah, and in addition to that, if there, well, it looks like on the other side too, but that may be actually pointing to the base of where those pipes are going, I'm not sure. But just clarifying what's being restored, and how,
Okay.
and then in addition to that, are any trees being
On either side of the culvert itself.
That culvert is a mess. I mean, if anything, that's,
Detail and restriction. Yeah, I can confer with you and find out what it is we're looking for, and I'll certainly get that into the bid documents.
And then in addition to that, do you know of any tree removal specifically over 12 inches in diameter?
Not within resource areas, there may be some along the edge of the road there.
Okay,
Not greater than 12, and the goal there is taking advantage of whatever we raise the road at, to whatever breaking grade we can get off the edge of the existing roadway.
okay.
That may be enough to give us the positive drainage. We're not talking a deep ditch swale, we're talking just breaking the grade
Yeah.
so we get it to flow.
So I guess the areas that become jurisdictional to the commission, and it's just required under bylaw to note that, is within the 100-foot buffer areas, or the adjacent upland resource area under a bylaw.
So as we progress, towards that project, I will also have to, should that need arise, not only bring it up to your attention, but also have to post it with the planning board to do a public shade tree hearing.
Right.
So the entry one and the end, because this is a scenic roadway. So they have to dot all 3 i's.
And I do see obviously the tree detail on there, but I'm just, if the it doesn't look like all the trees on here are being removed, so I would just like to clarify which ones.
The intention is to not remove trees.
Right. Okay.
And even in this area where we're looking to get
They're smaller.
excavation, we're looking to leave the trees in place there.
Okay.
Can I ask a question on why Century Mill is a separate issue? Because do we have a survey of what resulted in Century Mill being built up before they existed to what it is now? And why they want to be taking responsibility for the drainage?
Can you just state your name?
Oh, sorry.
and address?
Yeah, Gavin Robinson, 328 South Bolton Road.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
So, Central Mill Estates, don't like any other developer, and I wasn't here at the time, but, you know, I followed through the forensics of it. I was obligated to maintain a zero net runoff principle, no greater volume, no greater velocities, and as you alter your roadway layout and development, you must control those drainage features by creating drainage features, detention ponds and whatnot. So their obligation under permitting was met. They did all of that. What's happened is they have not physically built all that yet. So that's the distinction I was trying to make at the beginning of my presentation, is that we are not designing anything here to ameliorate their problem. They have to do that on their own. They're obligated to it. It's been a battle with the developer for some time, and now that the citizens are living up there, there's 40, 50 houses already occupied. You know, they're with the town as well and trying to insist upon this work getting done. The realization that the bottom of the pond was likely not functioning for infiltration was my noticing that it was filled with cat and nine tails, and typically they're taking root into something that's pretty mucky. And we did I made them get in there and do some testing. Lo and behold, whatever they had for their gravel water was totally gone. So that they have to muck that out. Now, they were doing that through the spring, and then there's been a change of management of the construction guys up there. And the owner's still there, of course, but they did no further work. And the irony is this summer it was so dry, and it was a perfect time for them to go in there and do some restoration. So the planning board is chasing that on their own. They have that battle. It's an ongoing battle. If the town felt that they were obligated to fix it all, this system would be gigantic that I'm talking about here. So we are not fixing their problem. We are simply fixing.
That's their problem.
By,
There's nothing to do with what you want to do.
That's correct.
Right.
and by the stormwater standards that they, and calculations that they had proposed and designed their subdivision with, inclusive of the drainage system and infrastructure, so long as it's functioning and built, it shouldn't have an impact on this. And that's what you're basically clarifying is, once they finish, this won't need to be taking care of that.
And that's a very important point, Rebecca. I appreciate that. The regulations are that post-development must equal pre-development. There's a big window in between time, which is called many, many years of this development of construction activity, which in some cases creates a more severe impact than post-development. So a lot of commissions actually look at phase scheduling and what their O&M plan is during construction. And it's because those folks, and it's not part of that permit from so many years ago, those folks simply haven't maintained it.
Now, has this proposal taken effect or looked at what they need to do as far as, let's say, I don't know, gallons per hour? Right now is 1 gallon per hour flowing down to this area. Maybe when they do a cleanup, it ends up being 5 gallons per hour, whatever it may be. And it increases the flow. Is this work gonna have to potentially be redone, or
No.
have we looked at what's,
Now, the
have you
work,
actually looked at that though, or you're saying no?
yes, we actually analyzed the hydrology. We had Duchamp Dillis do the hydraulic analysis of the site. We had the pre-existing condition of Century Mill.
Yeah.
We looked at the existing condition, what was here, we proved that there was a problem here. That's the problem we're solving. We also looked at and reviewed their calculations from the perspective, does it create a greater impact to us? And the answer is no, when it's built completely. So in the meantime, like we have been seeing for the past 4 or 5 years, we're gonna see greater frequency of flooding, but even when their project is done, had we not done this project, we would see the same degree of flooding, but not as frequently.
And they're not done with their project, so can this whole thing sustain their 18-wheelers coming through
Yes,
when they're coming through quite a bit?
yes.
On a daily basis?
That's why we're raising the road, because when I put, and the reason why I'm putting 3 12-inch pipes next to each other is I can't put one 24-inch, so I don't have enough cover. So even with 3 pipes next to each other, I still have to raise the roadway by about a 1.5 foot right at that drain to give me the cover that I need to prevent that damage, each 20 load.
Is there a lot of trucking on this road?
Yes.
Yes.
There is when they're working this. More recently, not so much, but in the past, it's been
Yeah, that's what it looked like to me, but
multitudes of 18-wheelers a day.
more than how many?
Oh, like at least 10.
During
At
construction, I
least.
would say
And then
absolutely, from
over.
deliveries to construction equipment, to materials,
Yeah.
to, there's a lot of stuff in and out.
Yep, yep.
And I'm sorry, one other question too. So the riprap that's going in, so that's like a natural riprap, dirt, soil?
It's stone.
It's stone.
It's stone.
Okay.
It's
And then
erosion stone.
that's gonna be maintained every
Actually,
year?
that's the beauty of putting riprap in, is you shouldn't need to maintain it.
Okay,
It's to take energy out of the discharge and to prevent erosion.
okay.
If you didn't put riprap in, you actually would have a,
Well, versus a
I've had some
concrete.
experience with that, by the way.
And why not a concrete riprap?
concrete that will eventually scour and wear out over time, and granite doesn't. Granite will be great. And the other thing that happens with granite is between the cracks in the stone, you'll actually get vegetation and root mass that'll
Okay.
actually chink it all together and hold it tight,
And slow down the velocity of the water also.
slow down the velocity and make it more stable.
Any other questions from the commission?
So what's the timeline?
So we have, we've gone to town meeting, we have the funding,
Yeah,
we've completed this design, we're gonna get the permits in place. These permits, we're going to put it out to bid, and the determination of putting it out to bid is gonna be based on town council, a town attorney's opinion of secure the easement first or not.
yeah.
And I think you always want to remove any question of scheduling out of the contractor's hands, so we would probably lean towards getting the easement first and then put it out to bid. So we would probably construct this next summer.
Any other questions, people in the audience, about this part of the project?
Yeah, almost that.
Okay. I was gonna say, I did go out there for the site walk. It was all very logical how it goes, and I know there's some big trees along here you were hoping to save, but a lot of it's just natural swell. Most of us who know that road know it's kind of necessary at this point. Do you want to start talking about the second part of this? We have around the
Around the
corner.
corner here.
Can I just get 2 seconds before you
Or
do it?
sorry.
Just again with the details on the erosion control, if you're using both straw bottles and the siltation barrier, if you're using it where it points out proposed erosion sedimentation, great.
I
but
think
if-
terra tubes make more sense, because this is pretty flat in here.
Okay, and then the other thing is,
What
if
do you
you're
call them?
using.
I call them terra tubes, that's the trade name, the socks.
If you're using terra tubes and silt fence in one area or just terra tubes, can you just differentiate that, or have
Sure.
Dewsbury Dills differentiate both?
You see, they are showing both, what you're saying is,
If
you're not showing in the
on-
plan which is which.
Right.
Yeah, I think we usually will straw walls almost everywhere.
Okay.
You don't have any steep terrain where you would need anything more substantial.
Not in this section that I could see.
we may put
If that
and then in the hay bale, and maybe only because of the discharge here being so close to the water, so,
I think
but up here it's all
also
flat.
whether it be silt fence or snow fencing or some type of fencing, it's very good to delineate the limit of work in that method. Because then it's clear for any operators, there's really no room for mistakes. But I don't know if that was what you or Ducharme Gillis were assessing when you proposed it, but I just noticed that there was two proposed and not specified.
No, they're not showing the limit, so I will get those on these spots. So there's a couple things, was it the same thing in a couple places, or? was it
Yep,
one?
and then the other things you had addressed before and clarified a few questions that I had.
So right around the corner from this location, which is heading towards Wheeler, Brian knows what it is because he and I went to it yesterday. Rebecca, this is where we went to that 40B
Yes.
meeting.
Oh, it's the
So
giant
right where the
public
driveway comes out of that, there's a low area immediately to the right. There is,
Commission member that left that moved to the Cape. He was an older gentleman, he lived there.
Right across the.
Yeah, I can't remember his name, but anyways,
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
lived where? Right
The street on, yeah, the house up here maybe?
on Wheeler,
On, no, on South Bolton.
on South Bolton. okay.
Yeah, right when you take that right. You
But
see
this
the
is
house
where
on the
the,
corner.
where everything pulls up.
Right, there's an existing catch basin that's there now, it's an infiltrating catch basin, it's just been put in, it's a low point in the road, doesn't connect to anything. It has,
Yeah.
wet well capabilities with the holes in it, just the ground just doesn't take any water, it just dissipates ever so slowly. What we're looking to do is to, Brian can see it visually, and the grades show it here. There's a steep portion that goes right down to the resource area, but there's a flat portion straight across. And what we're looking to do is put a deep sump catch basin that can be cleaned out every single year, and take the cover off and clean it, and then just simply put it within the right of way, discharge it, and let it get to the flat area, and then slowly meanders down.
Yep.
So what it does now is it pulls up, overtops and gets there anyway. So this simply controls that, and that's what we're looking to do. The gentleman who owns this land, even though this is within our right of way, the gentleman who owns the land where the water eventually does get, lives on Wheeler Road. When we were surveying back in the spring, he had contacted my office and they told him exactly what we're doing. He came out and looked at some of the designs that we were coming up with. It's an area that's already wet. It's his backland. He's a pretty good sized acreage. But his house is literally 700 feet through the woods
Yeah.
from this location. But again, all the work is within the town right away.
So I can make a comment as 328 South Bolton Road,
Go ahead.
Gavin Robinson. I live at that point, that's my driveway. It doesn't make any sense to put a drainage pipe or a little basin there. The issue area is off to the left, as you were talking about the 40B area, where that entrance is. There's the existing manhole that's already on that map, or the drawing. That's where everything sits. Nothing sits at my driveway at all.
This is driveway's up here. It's not Adam's driveway.
So on the,
Yeah.
So it makes no sense to put drainage there. It needs to be further down where the 40B driveway is going to be, and it needs to be taken care of there where it's not.
Where is it?
That's the 40 driveway, isn't it there? Or is that his?
No.
is that- No, that's your driveway.
This
I
is
got
my
you.
driveway.
Yeah, that's
I
your
get boxes
driveway.
Here, yep, and
Yeah.
the proposal's there. The issue area is up here. Yep.
He actually has a strong one. You're up.
So this is actually still flowing down. If you look at your map here, you see on here, it's still flowing down, right? So you're still coming down, and the low point is down here. So this makes no sense to put anything.
I'm gonna have to look at the stationing, because
Yeah.
what you're saying is correct. This is your existing paved driveway. And you're
It is.
absolutely correct. This is it.
That's the one, right.
This is it.
And-
This is incorrect. So-
Okay.
good to know.
So we have no intention of putting one up here.
Doesn't flood there.
No, yeah.
That would be silly.
We're not gonna do Sherman Dills on that one.
There was another question. Did you still have a,
Yeah, I do.
please, if you could just introduce yourself. Go ahead.
Leroy Millett, 45 Wheeler Road.
Okay.
And I'm probably the gentleman that called and told feedback when I saw someone, flagging and wanted to know
That's
what's going
right.
on. Yeah. So I'm not sure exactly where you're describing it, but I also haven't been able to review plans or anything like that. I haven't, approved or okayed or seen anything. I was just inquiring what was going on. So I still would like more details on where it's going across the road, because
Sure.
it may or may not be my property. We have 5 skinny lots that all kind of terminate there.
Fibers that go-
And like you
yeah.
said, we are like
Yeah.
700 feet back through the woods, but I just would like more details and clarification.
Do you want to come up and take a closer look at it?
Yeah.
It might make
Yeah,
life a
that's
lot
better.
easier.
Yeah, I think that might be helpful.
It is also available online, if you
Okay.
go on under current projects, if you wanna look into it further as well.
But, the revelation just made by Gavin is
Online.
very helpful.
Yeah.
So this is what the plans will show. If you do look online, pay no attention to it, I'm gonna get Drew Sherman to revise this. This is the low point, right down in here. This is the area that we're looking to put a pipe right across the street within our layout. Just simply put the head wall in and let it discharge across, which finds its way down into this area. It's where it goes now anyway. It's when this area fills up, it overtops the roadway, it just goes over the, uncontrolled, just goes over the edge. So this really allows us to get all the sands and silts out in a deep sump and catch basin that we can clean out. It takes a lot of suspended solids out, and theoretically the water is cleaner to being discharged as opposed to what's simply splashing out in the mud going across the road. But all that being said, Duchamp and Dulles tomorrow morning to get word that they've got to redesign this. This is not correct. When they get the revised plans, I'll make sure to reach out to you directly. And then of course have to resubmit with the commission. We're gonna have to continue this.
I was gonna say, well, we were gonna continue with probably the first one anyways, so it
Yeah.
works.
It looks like they just flip-flopped it.
Yeah, but we,
I know.
Yeah,
we.
But all the digging in the woods,
yeah, to see if this riprap in the flow, yeah.
Okay, and just to clarify, where's South Century Mill Road?
Century
Century
Mill
Mill
is here.
Oh, so it is just directly
This is
across.
South Bolton.
So you mean Century Mill Road?
Century Mill, yeah, sorry, and South Bolton, it goes that way.
So Century Mill is way out that
Right
way.
here.
Is way out. This is Spectacle Hill.
Oh, I'm sorry,
Sorry,
yeah.
yes, sorry, that's what I meant.
Okay.
Century Mill
This is
Estates
South
Bolton.
are right up here. You come out of Century Mill Estates,
Okay.
and this is
South
South Bolton Road.
Okay, so that, when you said fire, I thought you meant this area. Closer to this hill is kind of the back of our existing property. And, the 5 houses on that part of Wheeler Road all connect back through here, so this is a little bit over anyway. But just overall with the general water flow, I guess, especially where the 40B has increased drainage issues just since they've been in there working, before any construction, just land clearing everything, the bottom water coming down, there's certainly more. I know I've spoken to you guys before, I just want to be clear that they're retaining water up there, not just letting any kind of construction, stormwater runoff go straight into this, through the catch basin off into the wetlands across the way. So I guess that's my only concern.
So whether it's a 40B or not, the existing activities that is going on up there is not part of the development, it's part of existing activities. So that's something that can be handled more immediately than waiting at 40B process to go through the process. So, I'll take that back to the planning and Rebecca, between the three of us, we can get to the bottom of the existing condition.
Sure.
Yeah, and they did improve that road
Yeah.
that goes up there. They improved it quite a bit, where I don't know if they've got permits to do that in the past. So-
And it's not something we're gonna
Right,
discuss
I know, I
tonight.
understand.
Yeah,
That's
sorry.
different, but it
I
affects
gotta
the
kind
water
of keep
flow.
us,
Yeah.
focused, but.
Just overall downhill water flow, I want to be aware that now this is, pointing it directly across the road through a pipe, that it's not concentrating whatever construction and things, possible contaminants, things like that. Okay. Thank you.
So, we're gonna see new plans on that. We're getting a little bit of level of detail on the first plans, additional level, so you'd be fine if we continued.
Sure, I'm fine with that, sure.
Everybody's on.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah.
So in that case, I'd like to make a motion that we continue the public hearing for Department of Public Works, proposed placement of one road culvert along the proposed catch basins, manholes, and associated grading off Spectacle Hill Road and South Bolton Road between the junctions of Bill Pond Road and Wheeler Road. make a motion that we continue it until our next public meeting,
September 3rd.
September 3rd at,
I would say 7:30.
at 7:30 PM.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. All right, so continue.
Thank you. You read both.
Yeah,
We're
this
doing here
should
in
be
Jeremy,
open
so we're
to,
gonna
yeah.
jump to the second site. This is also South Fulton Road, but to add further confusion to the location. This is the one that's just west of Century Mill, down by the stables. So if you're on South Fulton and you're heading towards Hudson Road or heading towards Berlin, just before you take that hard right to stay on South Fulton, if you've been there in the winter, you may have seen an intermittent stream coming out of the woods. I think it's drainage that originates from 495. Comes out of the woods, flows down the gutter, and gets into a catch basin that goes across the street. It carries with it a lot of sands and stuff that just finds its way through the woods. And this basin that's here now, this rough inlet, gets clogged up a lot, has no sump to it. It simply functions as a manhole with a cover on it, capture the water and send it across. What I'm looking to do is right where the water discharges to the street, is put a catch basin in, deep sump, one that we can clean, connect it to a manhole, install a second catch basin to pick up the water that comes this way, that we can clean, and both we discharge to where it already does discharge, and put that in a new pipe, and in a new head hole. The water already gets there, the pipe is exactly going to be the same as what's there now. And we would be putting a head wall in, which is not there now, and we'd be putting riprap in again as a way to control erosion and discharge. And that's that project.
The overpass for 495 is like up
Just-
here,
just
so
where you-
yeah, after you go into that.
So I'm not sure if you know the locus of where it is, that Brian and I have visited the site yesterday. You can actually see where the,
Yeah,
I mean, this time of year the brook is dry. It really is.
So
It's
the
very right.
underpass is right there.
it's like over here, yeah,
Right.
so you're going under that.
It's before that,
Sharp
I
right
guess,
and South
Well,
Bend
the
Road.
S turns,
Yeah,
or over there.
then the overpass,
Yeah,
and then just
Oh, yeah, okay.
just before you get to the turn at South Bolton,
Yeah.
that's where this is. I mean, the turn at South Bolton is literally right here. And Century will continue straight.
And when you clean out the deep stumps, how much do you pull out of there and what do you do with it?
We just actually finished just yesterday, including all of our catch basins. We probably pull out, well, the equivalent of 4-foot bottom, probably 3 feet of it's full, so it's not up to invert, because we do them every year. And, you know, they're 4-foot diameter, so it's probably a full yard of material pulling out,
Each one?
each one.
And where does that go?
We stockpile it, and then they have to take it away and treat it as, thank God we're a rural community.
Right.
Urbanized areas, you actually have to treat it as like landfill cover. Ours just gets mixed in with compost. You know, not with us, they take it to a facility where they mix it with compost.
so what do we do?
We don't do, the
Yeah.
contractor takes it up,
Contractor.
and hauls it away.
So the guy that was making all that noise, that was waking the dogs up when you were in front of my house, that stuff goes somewhere else, right?
Did you sweep during the day?
No.
We didn't do any of this at night.
Yeah, I know, but it was the
Tired.
dog sleeps during the
Tired.
day.
Time.
And I just happened to notice that he was barking and howling.
Line painting we do.
Yeah, I know, that woke him up too. That's okay. It's a whole different subject.
So, any other questions
No.
regarding this? Anybody from the audience here to comment on this one tonight? Rebecca, thoughts?
Probably same thing, proposed erosion control, if there is any. Where
Limits
you're,
of work and erosion control.
yeah, if you're gonna be having them revise your plans, but aside from that, it's pretty straightforward in this spot.
It's just in the field, yeah.
Another quick question off subject. How many stumps are there?
I have that off the top of my head, it's over 300.
Really?
300.
Wow.
So, you made a comment, and I think it's important to note that there are many lines of defense, so catch basins are really just one of your treatment train along the way. And one principle that I've always used is eliminate it at the source. You know, if the sands that are getting into your system are coming from your roadway, just minimize the amount of sand that you use on the roadway to begin with. Sweep your,
495, right?
not along these roads, and just I'm talking in general. So if you use minimum sand to begin with, you sweep your roadways regularly every year, you clean your catch basins every year, over time, your piping systems in your brooks and streams and your brooks stay clean.
Yeah.
So the trick is to keep it off the road to begin with. If it gets on the road, keep it from getting into the catch basins. And if it gets in the catch basin, clean them regularly. And the theory is you just gotta clean the drainage system overall.
Who sands 117? You?
Me personally?
Not personally.
Yes, with the exception of 600 Main to Route 85, that's the state.
Yeah.
So we do Main Street up to 600 Main, you know, the senior
Yeah.
center. Then the state takes over all the way
From
down
there.
Route 85, and then we pick up at 85 and go to the store line.
Any other questions?
No.
Are you sure? Are you sure? Okay. So if we are holding, we're already continuing to next time for the other one. It looks like there's a few.
Well, to get the information on this as well.
Yeah.
So if
Makes
you
sense.
Want to continue, that's fine.
Any other questions on this right now? All right. In that case, I'd like to make a motion that we continue the public hearing for the Department of Public Works regarding the proposed catch basin and discharge pipe to improve drainage on South Bolt Road till our next meeting, September 3rd at 7:40 p.m.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, so continue.
It's always nice to have Joe here just to answer questions that sort of pop up.
I know.
No, it's just interesting.
Everything you want to ask Steve.
Yeah, I know. You're a celebrity here. Thanks for coming by.
When Long Hill Road is done, Rebecca will probably bring you guys up to speed on how great that culvert was.
Oh.
We were
There's some
commenting
pictures
on
on
it.
that.
Have you been watching that?
Yeah.
Good. I hope you like that.
Pretty good job.
Good night.
Good night, sir.
All right. What's that?
Okay.
Tom Denny. Go ahead.
So did your trees get taken care of, Leroy?
Yeah, we're good.
They're all good?
Well,
Good.
yeah, thank you. Continue.
Yeah, good.
Thank
We'll see
you.
if we got
300 of them in town?
Oh, those who approved the minutes, who were here, Brian, sorry.
That's all right, I can't.
Can you sign?
We have to sign in those now?
Yes. You said you'd like to edit, so. That is what we're on. So in your folders, you have a list of activities from Tom Denny, Nature Camp, contact, and supervisor, which is Ellie. And she's been wonderful enough to supply us with that information in addition to location on where those take place. This stemmed out of when we were at the beginning of Tom Denny Nature Camp this year, even after meeting with them last year and saying we're trying to maintain the field for migratory bird species and nesting sites, and that we would be basically limiting the area that would be mowed for the camp on the field, to that matter. They still requested it to be mowed and were under a different impression this year because they had directly requested to DPW that a larger, more significant area would be mowed. So we did end up mowing a large enough area for them to use for kickball and other activities, but noted that it would be appreciated if they would present to us or give us information, and in addition to that, any foreseeable maintenance that would go along with it that would be necessary before Tom Denny Nature Camp, so we wouldn't be out there the day of trying to accommodate them. They also implicate that Board of Health does not want the campers near tall grass, so that's why we do mow the pathways, which were mowed at the time to a significant width so that they can access it properly without ticks and other fun insects. So I guess the inquiry would be, even though we're trying to follow the management plan and maintenance plan that was established in 2005 by the design school, landscape design school, would the commission for next year want that larger area mowed again at the corner of the first field at Bowers? Or would you like it to just be pathways?
So this main field, where you
Yep,
have
so
parking.
as you enter right off of the parking area, the area that we mowed was basically, trying to think, probably 20 feet by basically the entire corner. I can't think of the exact measurement out there. But if you look at some map, yeah, so we basically took, instead of just the trail like this, which is what we had, we took this entire corner and mowed it versus having this field. And I did find some information from Carol or people who had done some inventory in past years, but it is, the email basically states that it's privileged, so I can't distribute it. I can distribute it to the commission, but basically just stating what species were there, that it was in fact used for nesting, and that the mowing should be limited to, like we had talked about last year, mowing should be limited to after July 15th. And that the way that it's been being mowed in terms of alternating spot mowing, and then which leaves shrubs and saplings, little islands of them, versus, and then other years just mowing everything, it creates a nice habitat for that species, which I think it's feasible to certainly do the mowing that they're requesting, but just way in advance, or not at all. So that's, I guess, what we wanted to clarify, but also they sent basically all their major activities that they felt may have an impact to the environment. But I think all their other activities have been feasible, and I don't see a problem with them, and I don't see a problem with this. It's just making sure that the commission's authorizing that versus at the last second requesting something that may or may not be in line with what's trying to be managed.
So when do they have camp? After the 15th of July or?
No, during that time. That's basically the time you're not supposed to mow. Camp is right smack dab in the middle of it. Which is why it's preferred to be mowed early, which we do mow it, but then we don't mow it again until fall.
Later.
So otherwise it'd just be a continuation of mowing that section all the time. Because basically you're keeping
Yeah.
turkeys from nesting there or
Yeah.
killdeer or something like that.
Yeah, there were, I mean, I can send you the list of the various species that they were concerned with.
Mhm.
This was back in 2000, so it most likely has altered in terms of the species that do nest there or that have a large possibility of nesting there, whether it was inventoried or not.
Now,
And it's-
would it be safer for the birds nesting if they weren't nesting there where it's so close to the parking lot anyway? I mean, it's not fenced off, or when you go to the beach and they fence off areas so you don't go with
Yeah.
birds nesting. So would it be safer not to actually have them nesting there anyway, and have that area mowed on a more constant basis?
So realistically, it's up to the commission how we want to maintain and manage that field or the property in general. The reason why you would limit the mowing, if in fact we want to continue to manage it that way, is because they need a few acres of consecutive field. So, and I did, actually, one of our grant applications last year was for this, so I did talk in depth about it with some of the individuals from the state who focus on this habitat. And they basically confirmed that if you're mowing a certain area, it's lessening the acreage, so you're reducing the variation of bird species that's gonna come in and nest there.
So even though it's left, it's still a field, the height of the field is critical.
Yes. That's my understanding, talking to Ms. Audubon, and then some individuals at the state level, again, for a previous grant that we applied for this property, specific to migratory bird species in grassland or meadow. That's what they told me, but it all depends on if the commission wants to try to encourage that. There's other bird species that nest there and like that habitat as is. So it's really just a question of what the goal is and what we want to, if we're okay with that being mowed, that's fine, but I wasn't ready to say yes because we had just talked about maintaining it in a different manner.
Are they already mowing the wide paths that are required as needed?
Yep, they actually just mow it on the typical schedule that we're mowing, but because it's used so much, it gets worn in. You can see it, it's grown up, and then right in the middle, it's dirt, basically. But apparently that doesn't
How many
have.
times do they mow it? Mow it every week?
No,
No, just once. Once in the beginning, once in the middle, once in the end?
so it becomes, there's a small portion as you enter the property there, just by the kiosk that they mow as well currently, and that's part of the DPW's mowing schedule, so
Yeah.
however frequently they're out mowing fields.
The only thing I noticed that when the camp was in is that they do use part of that as basically a parking lot too, right? So I don't know, it's what they've been using it for, I suppose.
Yeah, so in the past, they had actually kept the cars down there during
Yeah,
the camp
yeah.
activities throughout the week, but also I noted that this year, at least when I happened to be on the property, whether I notified them or if I was there for something else, they either kept the cars on the pathway adjacent, like right up in the camp, or in the parking area. They weren't parking in the field.
So they go up to where the dog thing is. Right? So
Yeah.
the parking, they go up with the dog, and then they
Drive through.
drive through over there, and that's what you're talking about, the mowing.
Yeah, yep.
But the other field to the left of it looked like it was, it didn't look like they disturbed that.
No,
If
it's
you look at it, there's not a lot of disturbing going on, it's just like a big parking lot and a place where the kids run around and,
Yeah.
I don't know, so, 2 years that I've been around there, that's what, I haven't noticed any changes in that.
And how many square feet are we talking?
Hmm?
Square footage,
I don't have the exact measurement.
approximate, are we talking like the size of this building? Or-
Yeah, about,
Yeah. Yeah, I would say about size of building. So it's not half the, I would say it's about a little less than a quarter of the field, that first field.
and this field is also mowed, right now, it's also, from the parking lot. This gets mowed all the time from the parking lot here too, right?
That's what I was talking
Oh,
about.
you are? I didn't know whether that was part of it or not, because anyway, we should take a look at it.
Yeah, Yeah, and
I'll take a look at it and see what, you know, I don't think they're really disturbing it that much, but I don't know.
No,
I don't
and
know.
that's why I'm saying it's really just a judgment call of the commission, but I didn't feel comfortable saying, oh yeah, it doesn't matter what you mow here because of the conversation.
Well, it does
we had
matter what
last
they
year.
mow, right? But-
Right, but I mean,
Right,
the
just-
extent versus just the pathway.
Right.
So I just wanted to double check with the commission, so I just requested what a list of activities that they use, what meaning in the field, so the commission could sort of lay it out, but they gave more than that, which is fine.
They do a lot of stuff.
Comments, comments? You're not here tonight to comment on this?
No.
Yeah, it's a good question. I guess that for that size, I tend to lean to the fact that they're using it.
It's
So
anyway.
again,
They're actually very careful.
we have a lot of really nice properties in town, but this is one of the ones that's like generally used by the public, gets a lot of use.
It's a lot of
It
use.
does have the camp, the kids use
I
it.
think if the kids are at a camp outdoors, they learn to be,
Yeah.
enjoy the outdoors, nature, and maybe over time they want to protect a little bit of it. It's a good thing.
Yeah.
Training little conservationists.
Yeah.
Use other fields for other.
Yeah.
Yeah, if they're playing kickball in that area, not too much wants to nest
Yeah,
there anyways.
Yeah, the only thing I was concerned about when I was with cars parking down there leaking oil and or stuff like that into
no,
the.
that's something we.
But I don't know where else,
Down.
you know, I'm not gonna, that wasn't what you're talking about, but I mean, it's.
Right.
That's the only thing that sort of concerned me when I looked down there, but I figured, well, it's a month,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
You know.
You don't like vehicles in there.
Anyway, that's it.
So, do we need to do some sort of vote on this?
I would just do a roll call vote just to appease that,
Okay.
authorize it, so you can do two mow or
Mo.
To mow?
no. No.
There is
That's a
no,
mow. So,
there is no.
so we'll do a lovely roll call vote. Yay vote meaning yes, you feel mowing that area is okay. Nay is you prefer not to see it mowed on a more regular basis and
Yes.
such. All right.
Yay.
Lori, all right. Jeff Bryan.
Yay.
All right. Kevin.
Yay.
Bill.
Yeah.
Lori. I'm a yay as well.
Mo or mo not, there is no.
We're gonna try.
And to clarify, that's just for the corner or to mow that field? Correct. So the area that they're currently using
Gotcha.
or more?
No, what they're currently using,
Okay,
historical.
okay.
I wouldn't want to increase it without actually
No, you
looking
don't
a
need
little
to.
harder. She also, I don't know what's on the agenda, she also talked about, you know, she wants to put a shed down there somewhere that she's still talking about.
I have not heard that.
Yeah.
His comes
They want a
down
little
before-
shed down in the woods there where they can keep the safety equipment. Because, that shed got destroyed.
Oh.
They had a shed that remember they put in a new shed?
Yeah.
They were gonna take the old one and put it down there.
Yeah.
But when we moved the old one down there, it just sort of
Fell apart.
fell apart, yeah. And so we threw it away.
Yeah.
So we need to figure out between now and then what we wanna do with that. And she was like, why can't we put a shed over here where nobody can see it? You know, you have to bring that up. Like,
Yeah. They
I
chat with
I
her.
haven't been
I know, I'm just,
approached about this to put it on the agenda. I would gladly put it on the agenda.
I know, but I just was
If it's
mentioning
the
that.
same-
I've heard conversation from
Yeah.
her about that. But
If it's the same size and it's going down by the water and then removed like the last one was, I don't see the problem.
Yeah.
I think she's more tuned into having it being, I'm just letting you know what kind of conversation I heard during the water testing and the kayak moving
All the
and
good stuff.
some of the other stuff that was going on down there. Kayak moving was a lot of fun.
Yeah,
Do we have updates on 147 Long Hill?
we do not.
Okay.
We are at the stage where we are going into litigation beyond that, I can't provide any update because I have no update, but also it wouldn't be public information as of yet at this time. But I have no update yet.
Okay.
But when we do get a date that's specific to the fines, I will update the commission, and then when it does become public information, which is when it is in court documents that are filed with the court, at that time, we will be able to update the public as well.
No update on open space parcels?
No, I am talking to the board of selectmen about the Taggart property Thursday. Just in terms of confirming
Thanks for coming.
hopefully their interest in pursuing potential funding opportunities and starting those conversations with the property owners as for sale.
And which property is that?
This is the one off of Fort Bush.
Forward?
Yep.
I've been out of this for a while.
Yes.
Across from the dock.
Mm-hmm.
Across from the dock.
Yeah.
Recycle center.
Yeah.
Recycle
So I
center.
saw a bird that looked like a heron, but it was just pure white the other day. Is
An
that-
egret.
Okay. It was a little smaller than a heron.
Very good.
In the pond behind
There's
the house.
cranes,
Was still
there's
pretty good.
egrets, there's,
It's on the agenda.
yeah,
Anyways,
sorry.
that thing was right up behind my house.
Well, shoot it, bring it in, we'll take a look at it.
It's beautiful back there.
Yeah. Not a lot of good
Was there any other mail we hadn't gotten through?
Stay still.
Nope.
All right. Is there anything outstanding we haven't gotten through?
No, we will, I'll send out the land policy again, so
Yeah.
we can review it. It's basically a form that I would like people using the properties, and I think it'd be beneficial to the commission, just for documentation wise, to have it, this is the policy, this is what we expect for responsible use. We've had inquiries from a few individuals, along with, when I first came here, there was some events that occurred without the town's knowledge, so I'd like to just create an avenue of communication for that, that's formal, and people know where to go, who to ask permission from, what the process is, versus just, I'm gonna have a bunch of people on this property and bring a reporter down. But also for, even cross-country and Tom Denny, I'd like to have them fill out the forms and just so it's documented each year, this is where it is, versus having to backtrack hearsay, basically, which luckily it's all, we have great communication with those organizations, but I'd like it to be a little bit more organized.
Sure.
So I'll do that next time.
Very good.
Anything else you want to advertise a dog for sale? Get that in before
It's
your
always nice to
applications?
have Joe in here to chat about some of the things that are going on. I never realized that there were like 300 sumps in Bolton that were basically, not really clean
No,
things that could be part of it.
So you
Pretty
can,
good job
How they-
picking up on that
Huh?
stuff. He does a good job.
No, that wasn't the point.
Yeah.
The point was, I was just asking a question.
No, yeah, you're all
Yeah.
all right, let me do this quick. I'd
We're
like
done.
to make a motion that we officially close the August 20th, 2019 meeting of the Bolton Conservation Commission.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.